I'd like to go over this performance assessment for you so that you can see how it's done for this problem and relate it to the problem that you are going to write. So Andrew owns a company that makes two different kinds of hot sauce and sells them to restaurants and stores. Both sauces are made from the same ingredients, and that's key because whatever you're choosing to make your product with, you have to use two different supplies or ingredients, but they vary in the number of green peppers and hot chili peppers. So we have green peppers and we have hot chili peppers that he's using. And then there's a table here, and so in your project you are going to write the story on a poster board, and you're going to put that at the top of your poster board. Well, you'll put a title first, so come up with a creative title, and then you'll come up with a story. And then you'll make a table, and so you will have two different products. All right, so his two different products are, he has the sauce 1 and he has sauce 2, hot and very hot. So maybe you're making cakes, maybe you're making jewelry, but both items require the same ingredients, just different amounts. Okay, so the first sauce has 6 green peppers and 4 hot chili peppers. Sauce 2 has 10 hot chili peppers and 3 green peppers. And you can see the one that's very hot has more chili peppers and less green peppers, and the one that's just hot has more green peppers and less chili peppers. So when you're writing your problem, you're going to want it to be similar, right? So on one, you'll have more supplies going towards like your first item. So for example, like the green peppers here are more, but on the hot sauce they're less. But then on the hot sauce you have more chili, and on the just regular hot you have less hot chili. And so you want to kind of model your story off of that so that it works. Today we're just going to talk about problem 1, and then you'll have time to write your story, write your title, make your table, and then hopefully work on just number 1. So how do we do number 1? Andrew buys 975 green peppers and 1,250 hot chili peppers. He uses all of those peppers to make the 2 types of sauce. How's he going to do that? Write a system of equations that shows how Andrew can use the peppers to make X pints of sauce 1. And that is important right there. The X pints of sauce 1 means that sauce 1 is going to be labeled X, and Y pints of sauce 2. All right, so I'm going to label my table, and you can do that too. So when you're coming up with your cakes or your jewelry or maybe clothing, blankets, I'm not sure what you're going to come up with. I'm sure it's going to be very creative. You're going to want to label it as whatever the item is and then call it X, and whatever the item is and call it Y. That's going to help you write your systems. So after we write a system, we'll have to graph it, and I'm okay with you using Desmos, or you can rewrite it in terms of Y, so it's Y equals mx plus b. So how are we going to do this? We're going to have an equation for the green peppers. So for our X item, just our sauce 1, we have 6 green peppers, and since that's item 1, we're going to call it X. And then we have 3 green peppers for our sauce that we labeled Y. And that's going to equal 975. So if we use 6 green peppers for our first sauce and we use 3 green peppers for our second sauce, it equals 975 total green peppers. Then we're going to do the same thing, but for the hot chili peppers, we have 4Y. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have 4X. We have 4X, right? Because that's coming from our sauce 1. We only use 4 hot chili peppers for our sauce 1. And then he uses 10 chili peppers for his sauce 2. And sauce 2 I'm calling Y. That is going to equal, how many hot chili peppers did he buy? 1,250. Now that we have both of our equations, it's a system of equations, and that's something that you're going to put on your poster. So on your poster, you will write or make up a problem like number 1, and then you don't have to write all of this stuff here. You can just write the problem and then put for your system of equations, you can just say system of equations and label it like so. And in your Canvas, there is a layout that you can follow for your poster. I noticed that these are in standard form. I could put them into y equals mx plus b form, but I find that it's easier to just graph the intercepts. So I'm going to give you a little reminder. How do we find the intercepts? So find intercepts. It's easier than solving for y and getting it to y equals mx plus b. So since it's in standard form, I'm going to plug in 0 for the y. So the y term goes away, and I just have 6x equals 975. This is when y equals 0. Now to solve this, I'm going to divide by 6, and I'm going to do that in a calculator. You can show this work on your poster, or you can do it on scrap paper. It's up to you. Of course, if you do it on the poster, then I understand that you understand. So when I divide in my calculator, I get x equals 112.5. That is going to be for my green chili peppers. And I can graph that. Here's 100, 150, 125. It's going to be about here. And I would even recommend graphing it, like finding the solution, graphing it, and then checking your solution with technology. Now, if I wanted to find the intercept for the green chilies for the y-intercept, I'm going to write it as 3y, because I plugged in 0 for x, so the x term goes away, equals 975. I'm going to divide by 3. So y equals, check that in my calculator, 325. Oh, I could have done that in my head. That is for the green chili peppers. Oh. That is for the green chili peppers. We have 325. So that we're gonna put that right here. So what do these mean? That means that we could just make the sauce 1, and if we're only making sauce 1, we could make 112 pints of sauce 1. And if we're just making sauce 2, we could make 325 pints of sauce 2 with this amount of green chili peppers. And so I just connect those. Those are the intercepts. Now I need to do the same thing for the red. So this is just finding it for the green chili peppers. For the red ones, I'm still going to find the intercept. So I'm plugging in 0 to the y, and I get 4x equals 1,250. I divide by 4, and I get x equals 300 and something. Let me do this in the calculator. 1250 divided by 4, 312.5. And that means that for sauce 1, because sauce 1 was x, and I'm going to graph that over here. If I have 1,250 red chili peppers, then I could make just 312 pints of sauce 1. But that means I'd be making 0 pints of sauce 2. And I think he wants to be making some of both. So that's just the intercept. Now I want to find the y-intercept. So I will plug in 0 for x. So just write it as 10y equals 1250. If I divide by 10, I can do that in my head, is just 125. And that is for the pints of sauce 2. If I graph that, is right here. And that means that I would not be making any pints of sauce 1. I would just be making sauce 2. I could make 125 pints. I'm going to connect those. And what do you think it means where they cross? This point of intersection. That is the sweet spot. Where they're crossing, that is where he can use all of his peppers, because he wants to use all of the green ones and all of the red ones. And you can see that's where the red line and the green line cross. And I'm going to check it in Desmos just to get an exact point, because it looks like about 75 pints of sauce 1. Right, it kind of looks, now don't write this unless you are writing in pencil, because this is a guess. I'm thinking it's about 75 pints of sauce 1 and maybe 90 or 88. It's just a guess of sauce 2. That's my guesstimate. Now I'm going to put these two equations into my Desmos calculator, and I'm going to check if that's exactly where they cross. So in my calculator, I'm putting 6x plus 3y equals 975. It's way outside my window. It's not even showing up on my calculator yet. 4x plus 10y equals 1250. And now I have to change my window because it's way zoomed out. And then I click where they intersect. Oh wow, I'm way off. It's actually 125 and 75. Interesting. So I'm going to just double check that my equations are written correctly. Did I graph it right? I think I did. I'm thinking that maybe my green equation's a little bit off. Like it's a little bit too low. So my guess is way off. I'm going to erase it. And I'm going to write the actual point, which is 125,75. And it's okay if in your made up problem you get a decimal answer, because that's the real world. You may get a decimal answer and you'll just round it. How many types of each pepper will he use for each type of sauce? So he would use for, sauce 1, that's X, right? He would use he would make 125 pints, which means that it takes 6 green peppers, so times 6 green, and it takes 4 hot chilies, so hot chili. And we have to multiply that to figure out how many peppers he's going to use. So 125 times 6 is that 750? Let's check. 6 times 125. Yep. 750 green. And timesing it by 4, I get 500 hot chili. And that's just for sauce 1 based on the chilies that he's buying. For sauce 2, that's Y. He's going to have 75 pints, because that's our Y, right? We have an X and a Y. So we're going to times that by how many green does he have? 3 and 10 hot. $75 times 3 is 225 greens, and he's going to have 750 hot. Okay, and I feel like that explains it well enough because we used color, and maybe in your project you want to use some color to emphasize things, and I suggest doing everything on lined or scratch paper before you put it on your poster. Okay, because the poster paper is limited. You're not going to get extra poster paper if you make a mistake. So make sure that you do a rough draft before you put things on your poster. So for right now, I would like you to work with your partner and work on your story and work on the part 1, so number 1 of the project, and we'll be spending today on that, and then the rest of the time to get number 1 done, you're going to need to work with your partner outside of class time if you don't finish it in class today.